Streaming live from Cambodia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, and Singapore. Welcome to the ASEAN Accounting Education Workgroup AAEW inaugural webinar entitled The New Normal in Accounting Education in the ASEAN Region. Good morning, this is Florence C. Tugas, your moderator for this webinar. To ensure meaningful learning experience today, let's have some webinar reminders. From Sir Alan Frank Silva, Vice President External of the National Association of CPAs in Education. Alan, take it away.
Thank you, Florence. Before we begin, here are some friendly reminders to ensure a smooth flow of the proceedings. Ensure that your microphone is on mute mode and your video is turned off throughout the duration of the webinar. Avoid using the chat box for non-essential comments and pleasantries, including chatting with other persons while the webinar is ongoing. Raise your questions about the webinar topic through the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. You may also click the thumbs up button of the questions of fellow attendees which you would like to be answered. Be prepared. Participants may not be able to re-enter the webinar once disconnected. Thus, ensure that your device has adequate battery, a charger is readily available, and your internet connection is stable. Evaluation link will be provided through the chat box at the end of the session. The participant's evaluation of the webinar is a requirement for the issuance of your certificate of attendance to be sent to your email. Thank you very much for your cooperation. May all of us be able to bring something home from this webinar, and with the blessings of the Almighty, apply them in our journey towards teaching and learning in the new normal. Back to you, Dr. Tugas.
Thank you, Alan. To formally open today's inaugural webinar, let me call Dr. Nani Dewey Tanzil, AAEW President, for the opening remarks. Nani, take it away.
A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Wishing you all safe and healthy on your place. Here from the city of Bandung in Indonesia, I'm pleased to welcome you to the first AAEW webinar hosted by PICPA and NACPAI in Manila and also co-hosted in Cambodia and Singapore. I'm happy to share with you that there are 1,469 participants are registered to this event from the Asian region. Among the participants registered, I found that there are chancellors, vice chancellors, provost, dean, vice dean, department head, and school managers are among the participants. And of course, thousands of accounting teachers, fellows, and also accounting professionals from accounting firms, governmental institutions, companies, and professional certification bodies. It is a fantastic number of participants, and it make this event to be one of the biggest events for the AAEW since its inception. Many of you are joining our AAEW events for the first time. So let me brief about give you an introduction on AAEW. AAEW is a non-profit voluntary organization and composes of institutional members and representatives from universities and organizations in ASEAN countries. The objectives of the ASEAN Accounting Education Work Group, AAEW, is to provide input to and empower higher education accounting programs across ASEAN. So AAEW has a vision to become an official platform for the development of ASEAN higher education accounting program, to enhancing their abilities to produce graduates who can compete in the global accounting markets. And it is to further support businesses and the accounting profession development in the ASEAN Economic Community through advice on matters of relevance to accounting education. Next. So we at the AAEW have several activities that include a meeting biannually, and we did it since April 2014. We also have some case study development workshops, joint research, conferences, seminars, student workshop and conference, and of course now we have also a series of webinar. And the permanent office for the AAEW is at the University of Pajajaran in Bandung, Indonesia. Okay, this is the three current project on the way with the AAEW. We are inviting you to also participate in our co-author writing for some research, and also in the serial of webinars. And at the end of the webinar today, we are conducting a survey, a little survey, and also an evaluation. So the form will be available for you to fill in before you claim for your e-certificate. Now about the webinar today, our topic is the new normal in accounting education in ASEAN region. Back to 2018 and 2019, actually AAEW is concentrating on some topics that is very relevant to all of us, that including the application of technologies for accounting education. And also we have some discussion on the implementation and adoption of Industrial Revolution 4.0 to the accounting curriculum. Today, actually, we are supposed to have a meeting in Cambodia. Yes, for the 11 meeting of AAEW. So in last January, when we start to plan the agenda for our meeting, then suddenly something micro, unseen, then changed the life in this planet. COVID-19 spreading from China to the rest of the whole world and become a global pandemic until today. The pandemic then changed our life even more dramatic than the information technology that has also changed our life. So the last data from the World Health Organization. Next. Yes, until today, we know that it is recorded yesterday that more than 8 million people confirmed cases, and also almost 500,000 become, yeah, it's a data from World Health Organization that almost 500,000 people deaths. That's why today we all experiencing something that I think quite familiar for all of us. Yes, the pandemic has impacted our life. Now there are cities closed around the world, people locked down, and the businesses turn their management crisis mode on. Some of the businesses that still run the business, they start to implemented their COVID-19 measure, and we also working from home, and we also see that there is a severe economic impact because of this pandemic. What about to education? Yes, we all as the academy then experiencing that campuses are closed now. We found our classroom empty, let the students study at home, and we as a lecturer examining online from home. And also we experiencing maybe all together with the family at home. It's not working from home, we also studying from home. That's why now we take our topic for this first webinar is on the new normal that we expect to have for the accounting education, especially in the ASEAN region. So this pandemic now leave us with some questions, including, next, maybe what is the best method of teaching online? And how effective is the online method to deliver the course material? How to make our students engage in online classes? And many more questions, including what is the COVID-19 protocols that should be in place when the campuses are reopened in the future. So today we are very lucky that we have PIKPA, NAKPAI, and also Indonesia Chartered Accountant who support our webinar today. And we have 5 distinguished panelists and a moderator to share their significant thoughts and experience for experience in teaching online and also in implementing some probably COVID-19 protocols in campuses. I also would like to thank you to the AAEW core committee to make this webinar possible. So I hope you all can enjoy this webinar and we have a fruitful discussion and you can bring home something very important for the best of accounting education in ASEAN region. Thank you. Back to you, Florence.
Terima kasih, Dr. Nani. How about we ask our audience, how are you feeling right now? Just to make sure that all of you are okay there. It's time for our first poll question. How are you feeling today? Happy, sad, angry, don't care, inspired, afraid, amused, annoyed. All right? So essentially, 74% feel happy, 23% inspired. I would leverage on them. I would rather see everything with a silver lining and optimism. Thank you for your vote. We will have another one later. And to introduce our speakers and moderator, may I call Dr. Ko Siki, Vice President 2 of AAEW. Siki, have it your way now.
Thank you, Florence, and thank you, Dr. Nani, for your presidential opening remarks. A very good morning to all fellow colleagues from all around ASEAN, and thank you for joining us in this morning webinar, a first for AAEW. My name is Zuki, and I am from the Singapore Institute of Technology. At AAEW, I serve as the Vice President for the work group. This morning, we have lined up a panel of esteemed educators from 5 ASEAN countries to share with us their teaching experience and tips in this new normal era of accounting education. But first, please allow me to provide a brief introduction to all our speakers. From Cambodia, we have Mr. Casey Barnett, who is the president at CAMAC Business School. Casey is also an advisor to the National Accounting Council of the Ministry of Economics and Finance, as well as a member of the work group on accounting, tax, security markets for micro enterprises and SME with the ministry. Previously a World Bank consultant in the area of public sector financial reporting, Casey is a CFA chartered holder, a fellow member of ACCA, and holds an MBA from Columbia Business School. From Indonesia, we have Dr. Ursa Tri Wayuni. Ursa is a senior lecturer of the accounting department at the University Pajajaran. She is a member of the Indonesia Financial Accounting Standard Board and also the manager of research and cooperation for the Faculty of Economics and Business. Ursa is a CA with the Institute of Indonesia Chartered Accountant. She has been teaching accounting subjects for more than 15 years and is the author of many accounting articles, book chapters, and 4 bestseller accounting textbooks in Indonesia. Ursa received her PhD from the University of Manchester and Masters of Accounting from the University of Melbourne. From Malaysia, we have Dr. Zubra Azhar. Zuri is the accounting chairperson and he is a senior lecturer at the School of Management, University Sains, Malaysia. He is a CPA Australia and a CA of the Malaysian Institute of Accountants. He is also an ASEAN Chartered Professional Accountant. With more than 40 years of teaching working experience, he has published and presented his research work in various journals and conferences. Currently an associate editor for ASEAN or Asia Journal of Accounting Perspective, he obtained his PhD from the University of Manchester. From the Philippines, we have Dr. Anel Onosimo. Anel is a full professor, research fellow, and currently the vice chancellor for administrations for De La Salle University. He is a certified management accountant, Australia, certified financial consultant, USA, and a CPA, Philippines. He is also a lead assessor in the ASEAN University Network for quality assessment of business programs of the members university, and currently the chair of Commission on Higher Education Technical Committee for Accountancy. He obtained his PhD in business from De La Salle University and a master's in business management from the Asia Institute of Management. Last but not the very least, from Singapore, we have Dr. Jesslyn Lim. Jesslyn is a lecturer with the accountancy program at the Singapore Institute of Technology. She taught in various finance courses and actively explored innovative ways to create an engaging learning experience for her students. One of her recent teaching projects involved the production and use of scenario-based videos to teach research skills to undergraduate students. Jesslyn has broad research interest in corporate finance and has just published an article in the Journal of Corporate Finance. Jesslyn holds a PhD from Monash University, Australia. The panel will be moderated by Dr. Florence Lucas. Florence is an associate professor and holder of the PCI Bank Professorial Chair in Banking and Finance at De La Salle University, teaching basic accounting, audit and assurance, and management of information technology courses. Florence also co-authored 2 textbooks. He is currently the president of the National Association of CPA in Education and the editor-in-chief and managing editor of NAPA, Journal of Accounting Research. He serves in various committees with the Philippines Institute of CPAs. As a researcher, he has presented and published research papers in conferences and academic journals. A CPA and a certified information system auditor, Florence holds a PhD in business and an MBA from both De La Salle University. Currently, Florence also serves as the Secretary General of AAEW. Please join me in welcoming all our speakers and moderator. Over to you, Florence.
Thank you, Siki. And to start the ball rolling, let me call Casey from Cambodia. Casey, take it away.
Thank you very much, Florence. I am the president of Kemet Business School in Cambodia. And I'm not only the president of Kemet Business School, but I'm also teaching financial reporting. And we in Cambodia have been suffering from COVID, as have many of you. And in the middle of March of this year, the Ministry of Education closed down all elementary, middle school, and high schools. And about a week later, the Ministry of Education closed down all universities. So from the middle of March of this year, we have been unable to hold physical classes. Our response was to have our professors and lecturers continue teaching following our normal schedule on the normal scheduled days for our courses. And we did invite our professors to teach even in the same classrooms. They would come to the classroom. It was an empty classroom. They were teaching live. We did not use video recordings, although the courses were recorded on video. After each lesson, we shared a video with students. So we have not missed a single class, even though universities and schools have been shut down. Students have been studying live. We require attendance, we take attendance. All of our courses here at ChemEd Business School are utilizing Google Classroom, and this has facilitated our switch to teaching online because Google Classroom integrates a number of interactive tools such as Google Quiz, Google Documents, Google Form. And we've trained our professors in using additional applications. I'll name 4, Kahoot, Padlet, Jamboard, Kami. Those are all online interactive applications that our professors have been using. And we have taught to the end of our term, and right now we are going through our final examinations. And so yes, not only have we been teaching all of our courses as normal online, but we have also been conducting our final examinations online. And here is an image of one of our invigilators. You can see she's wearing a mask. She has 2 screens. And our exam invigilators, they observe between 10 to 20 students. Each student has 2 cameras to observe them taking examinations, a front camera and a side camera. And among thousands and thousands of examinations at our school online, we've caught a few people cheating. And in response, we have a few measures before the exam starts, and sometimes during the exam. Our invigilators do a 360-degree check of the room in which the students are taking the exam. We did find some students cheating with online discussion chatting. We now prohibit speaking. Students cannot speak even to themselves during the exam. And we are introducing unique codes that invigilators verbally give to our candidates when they take an exam. So we have a few additional security measures in the examinations, and they've been running very well. One of the concerns was switching to online was whether or not the teaching performance would go down. We told our professors in the beginning that they would be held responsible for their teaching performance, and we would not tolerate any drop in their performance. And they were concerned about this and afraid it might impair their performance. But we see that the teaching performance has not gone down at all. There doesn't seem to be any significant impact in the students' evaluation. In the screen here, we see the results of a survey of more than 3,000 students across a number of professors. How well did the lecturer teach? One of the basic questions we survey every term. And we see the results in May 2020, which was for our online courses, really no different from, not significantly different from the responses a year ago for the physical classes, 2 years ago or 3 years ago. So teaching performance has been maintained. And the students, though, they do distinguish between the teaching performance and the quality of the online class. And when we ask the students how's the quality of their online class, they do rate it a little bit lower than the professor. And this is good for the professors because the students do distinguish between the professor's ability and the overall quality of the online class. The higher online classes are those that do heavily integrate interactive activities and applications such as Group, Google Excel, Google Quizzes, Kahoot, Jamboard. These interactive applications really do improve the students' perception of the quality of the class allows them to engage more during the class. One of the problems, though, is paying attention. So students report a lot of problem paying attention, and that makes sense because when the student comes to our physical class, it disciplines them, all the distractions are removed. But when they are at home online, there are many more distractions at home, and it's also easier for the students to switch off. Comparing Google Meet versus Zoom, our students do prefer Google Meet, but that might be due to the fact that we are using Google Classroom. So Google Meet just integrates better with the Google Classroom the students are already using. We have recently conducted a number of exams. These are two subjects that I personally are teaching, advanced financial reporting and accounting according to IFRS for SMEs. And we see that the student score this year, 2020, is higher than for the final exam. The average score is higher than in 2019. And for IFRS for SMEs, very similar. The average score of students for the final exam is very similar to 2019. I do not attribute the difference in scores to the fact that we are teaching online, but the good news here is that we do not have evidence that the students' learning has been impaired. So we do not have any evidence that students' learning is impaired or damaged by studying online. In fact, there might even be an argument that it's improved their learning. How was this all possible? How did we move seamlessly? How was it that we did not miss a single exam? We did not miss a single course, even though universities were shut down? Well, it takes a team, and this is our team. We have programmers, we have IT professionals, and for many years, we have encouraged use of IT applications. For many years, we've gone to Singapore for education technology conferences such as EduTech. And we've really been pushing this for many years. And we have had 100% of our classes online and videoed and on Google Classroom starting a year and a half ago. So because we had a good foundation and we gave our staff and our professors the training they needed and the support and the tools they needed, it made it all possible. And we're really proud of it. We've been working hard and we feel we have achieved a lot of success. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Cassie. Continuing the talk proper, may I call Ersa from Indonesia? Dr. Ersa, please have your slide slow now.
A very good morning, Dr. Tugas, and a very good morning for everyone in this webinar. Congratulations for Accounting Education Work Group for having this. Oh, start the video. It hasn't. Okay, sorry. Yes, a very good morning for everyone, and I feel very honored to be invited as one of the panelists here, and it's been such a heartwarming to see many lecturers from Asian countries gathered together, and this is one of the benefits of having work from home, that we are all now can be gathered online, which can be very difficult in the real before this, because most of the AAEW events are not online. So yes, let me begin my presentations with a quote that, sorry, we are now, problems yet. So as being presented by Dr. Nani before and Casey, that this pandemic have pushed everyone to be online. Yeah, and in Indonesia, not only in Universitas Pajajaran, I believe also in other universities, we have a lot of challenges, especially in the internet stability. Our students are in many small cities where the internet are not stable, and then the resources, the laptop, and the quota to join the online classroom and so on. So those are challenges that I believe is not only in Indonesia, but also in other countries as well. So the changing landscape of accounting education is very real. As Dr. Nani said, that the business are heavily impacted by the pandemic. Thus, we are, as an accounting lecturers, as an accounting educators, I believe every one of us see our role as a very important role in the society, because we are shaping the future accountants. We are shaping the future accountants. We are not just selling degrees. We are shaping the future of accountants with adaptive accounting skills, excellent soft skills, and good characters. And for Universitas Padjadjaran, and I believe also in other universities, we take it very seriously in shaping our students' soft skills and good characters. We want our students to be polite, to have critical thinking, negotiation skill, presentation skills, and also conflict resolutions. And the university gives a lot of money for students' activities, so the students can engage. For example, in organizing events, there are so many student events in the normal situations, which is now all are being shut down. So for me personally, it's very challenging to make sure that we are still be able to shape the soft skill and the good characters of our students, because that is what the employer see the most. We in Universitas Padjadjaran, we constantly ask our seniors, our alumni, and our employer, what do you value most from our graduates? And they always put soft skill and good characters on the top of the list. I'm not saying that the technical capabilities are not important. Of course, they are important. But with the ever-changing situations right now, with a lot of uncertainties, the companies also realize that they need to reskilling, they need to retrain the new graduates. But the soft skill and good characters, they are hoping that we install that, we institutionalize that to our students while they are 3 years, 4 years with us. So there are more uncertainties to the future. We don't know whether there will be another virus coming in the next 5 years. We don't even know if there is any vaccines being issued for this COVID-19 this year. So many uncertainties in the future, which make then the accountant should be confident in making their professional judgment during this uncertainty. The question is, how and what do we teach to develop such confident accountant of the future? So I have 3 points here. Number one, I believe that for teaching accounting in the new normal, we need to build a very strong fundamentals. The technical part of the accounting, we can come up with Google, a lot of online quiz, for example, assignment, group work, to make sure that they grasp the technical capabilities. But don't forget the fundamentals, because then during uncertainties, that's what makes them confident. For example, a lot of our alumni who are working in the companies right now, they ask questions, how can I spread loss to the next years? Can I stop depreciations because the manufacturer machine doesn't work during the pandemic? Those are questions that being asked because they are afraid to book the loss. And we need to strengthen the fundamentals that financial reporting, because I teach financial reporting, so at least that's what I know of. So I keep telling them that financial reporting, the fundamental of financial reporting is to inform to the stakeholders the condition of the companies. So the financial report need to faithfully represent the economic condition of the companies. So if this is a global pandemic and every company in the world are having also similar difficulties, you shouldn't be afraid of booking a loss. If you are afraid that your bonus is going to be cut, you need to negotiate the bonus KPI, not than trying to present the financial reporting not representing the real condition of the companies. So, sorry. So the build the strong fundamentals is even more important, because then in the uncertainty time, that's what makes them strong and confident. And the second one, we need to give them to guide them how to be a long life learners. In the time of uncertainties in the futures, they have to know how to access new informations, how to utilize a lot of resources, how to find IFRS, for example, IFRS standard in the IFRS website, and also ask them to join the professional association early so they can make use of the resources of the professional associations. And then they need to be able to understand that they need to build the network. Being in the accounting profession, we need to have a strong network, which then they need to develop even starting from their undergraduate degrees. So that goes to the next items, to the last item, is to keep shaping their soft skill and characters. As I stressed out before, that in the real face-to-face environments, lecturers are able to have direct corrections for the misbehavior, for example. The students are inspired by the lectures when they see the lectures walking in the whole university hall with our confidence. And for example, many of our students are inspired by Ibu Nani Dewi, for example, because she looks very confident, she dressed well, and that is a very difficult feeling. You get it online because you can only see the lecturers in the monitor. So, and the students are lacking of collaborations, conflict resolution with their friends. This is something that we need to think about in the future. How do we institutionalize our culture, the university culture, also to the students, so they don't lose the DNA of the university? That's what makes us different. And that's what the employer value into our graduates. I have only 10 minutes and I think my time is up. Thank you for listening, and this is my contact if you want to have further discussion. Thank you, Dr. Tugas.
Thank you too, Dr. Elsa. It's now the turn of Dr. Zubir of Malaysia. You may now begin your presentation, Dr. Zubir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tugas. So it's my time now. Hello, everyone. Assalamualaikum from Malaysia. I'm going to share what is our journey in USM, and I believe that it is not going to be so much different from what we have in other parts of the world, including in our ASEAN region. So our ASEAN counterparts must be very exciting and also, find it interesting to work and also to continue educating our students in the accounting field. So I believe that while the timing of the impact of COVID-19 on different countries has varied as it moves across the globe, the impact that it brings is quite overwhelming and of similar pattern. So that is my impression about what we are experiencing during the COVID-19. So as we move into the movement control order, and then now is the recovering kind of movement control order, especially in Malaysia. So we are now free, but before that it was a bit of rigid, and we face a lot of restrictions in terms of moving along and then try to adapt. But the best thing about COVID-19, it intensifies the technological platforms that we use to educate our students. So these are among the changes that we have because USM has implemented various protocols to comply with strict guidelines from various authorities. The Malaysian government, they keep on introducing restrictions here and there, and then we have a lot of sharing and also advice from the ministry in terms of how to move along. And then we have students in campus and we have to bring them home and so on and so forth. So there are a lot of hoo-ha, going on in that respect. So our approach in USM is very much on accommodating the accounting education, and it has been very challenging, of course. But it is more than just stay at home or maintain physical distance, because I believe that this is the era where we have the generation that is online oriented, and they like online things. So this is the best time to unboring our accounting students in terms of present to them and also engage the interactive online platforms that are close to their hearts. So we in USM, and I believe in other universities as well in ASEAN, have been adjusting ourselves to teaching online and to navigate the technical challenges of online classrooms. Not only we have to learn how to conduct online teaching, perhaps even tweaking the lessons, managing students' questions and also complaints. Of course, they have lots of complaints when they are, not used to certain platforms, because there are a lot of platforms that we can leverage on. And apart from that, being more responsive to the students' queries, because being online, it is not necessarily during office hour, during the class time that they will be asking questions to us, but they will be also, stealing some of our night time, if I can put that way. But it is okay, because we also excited, and also we find it very interesting to share with them about new things, and they become, more engaged with us when we meet online rather than in the classroom. If in the classroom you ask them questions, they will just keep quiet, or only a few people, keep on asking questions from the same audience. But I'm happy to share that in USM, virtual mode is not really new, and we have been using online platforms for a good number of years now. But there might be some subjects that we have to be fair to, especially those killer subjects with complicated calculation parts, at least to some students, as I believe. We don't have any problem, when it comes to the lecturers. So that can be quite challenging in that respect. But what is our approach in USM is that we try to have this inclusivity and also student equity. And in fact, we have already endeavored some of the efforts in terms of bringing those students who are in the remote areas to get access to the internet. Those with B40 category, I think we have helped them. We have extended our help in terms of giving them the SIM card so that they can have access to the online learning. And then that will not stop them from learning throughout the semester. And in fact, in USM, we have extended our semester. It's supposed to be now is the exam time, but we don't have exam at this moment, but we have extended until September. So by September, everything will be settled down. Of course, we have to deal with our stakeholders, especially the professional bodies, the MIA. They want to have quality education maintained throughout our syllabus. So that is something that we find it challenging, but we have so far managed to accommodate all the requirements, and then they are quite happy with what we have delivered so far. In terms of the plan, I think this is a continuous something that we can start to project from what we have now until, God knows when. But I think this is supposed to be a continuous effort in which USM has been given greater flexibility in completing our academic calendar with scheduling and credit hours limitation removed, at least until the end of 2020. So if you ask me now, we don't have any final exam structured like the usual one, but we have all the final exam components translated into the coursework. So we have 100% coursework. This is to alleviate the concern of the academic progression by extending the length of our academic semester, like I mentioned just now. And we even opted to have all of our final exam components done, and by giving the flexibility of different subjects that they have to undertake for this current semester, so that online exams won't be overlapping, one another. And all this require us to adopt a more proactive approach in responding to students' queries and also concerns, on top of learning how to do online teaching. Of course, we have flexible internships because the MCO movement control order was announced in the middle when our students in this current academic semester undergo their internship program. So this is something that we have to think about accommodating the work from home part, so that our students will qualify and graduate. Those who are in the final semester, final year, they can graduate on time. Of course, we have a lot of enhanced technical support tools, and we have a lot of centers. In USM, we have at least 3 centers responsible to put up the quality technical support. We have Center for Development and Academic Excellence, that is under CDAE, and then we have the Center for Knowledge, Communication and Technology, PPKT, and also we have the Center for Instructional Technology and Multimedia, that is under PTPM. So these are all supporting our online platform. And in USM, we have one specific online platform. We call it as eLearn. It's like Blackboard, if you are familiar with Blackboard. So that is something that we are using, and all the quiz, all the midterm tests, all the online assessments are done there. And of course, we have to maintain ties with the professional bodies. We engage them, we participate, ask our students to participate in their webinars that we receive from time to time. And also we extend the support to both, not only the students, but also to the lecturers. Those who are quite senior, then we find then that they might be not technology savvy, and so we try to help them as much as possible. But we continue our business as usual with meeting our students online, although not face to face. And then of course we are required to do research. So these are what we think that we have achieved based on the monitoring models that we have adopted. And in fact, the university is very serious about having our activities reported. We have weekly reporting, but we are not so much into attendance, but we consider participation more. So even if the students are not there, but because we do the recording of some of our lectures, so they can keep on repeating again and again. And in fact, I receive comments from students. They even selfie when they watch my video that they are already underwent, some of the tutorials or the lectures that I have asked them to watch. And of course, we ask our academic advisors to monitor the performance of the students if something is wrong with their midterm progression. And then we try to make sure that they're not going to suffer in the subsequent tests. And then having good relationship with the professional bodies so that accreditations is not going to be at stake. And then we have eLearn evaluation, feedback, and also we try to make our academic program competitive as ever. So this will be some of the programs that we have organized. And this is all the effort that we have because of COVID-19. So thankful to COVID, but at the same time, we hope that COVID will just go away as soon as possible. Thank you very much. Back to you, Florence.
Thank you too, Dr. Zubir. It's now time to listen to Dr. Arnel of the Philippines. So may now start, Professor Arnel.
Arun Suste, selamat pagi, magandang umaga sa inyong lahat, and good morning to everyone. Us being here in this particular forum gives us now a snippet of what to expect ahead of us. COVID-19 has given us a lot of things to consider or reconsider, and that includes how we will now move forward in conducting our business of educating the next generation of accountants in the region. My sharing for this particular morning will revolve around the context within which we are all facing. I'm showing you here the updates of the coronavirus. While everybody in this particular session are affected, something that we have in common, the different results here, the graphs that you see, shows us the differences in terms of how it is now impacted our lives and is continuing to impact us in the coming years or perhaps decades. My particular take this morning is actually to share with you what we have done to reflect on the 94 days since we were actually locked down. We call it quarantine. March 16 was the time when the Philippines was actually was given an enhanced community quarantine mandate by the government, which means no one is supposed to be allowed to get out and everybody has to stay home, so that becomes now part of how we are able to control the spread of the virus. 94 days later, this is actually what we have discussed, that's what we have learned. And I am sharing this with you this morning, the Philippine story to all of this. My task is actually multiple in this particular session. One, I'll share with you the Philippine story as a whole, accounting education, and of course, what we have done in our institution, De La Salle University. I hope that by sharing all of this, you're able to pick up at least some handle on how we are able to use this particular situation to our advantage so that we will actually be able to reform, improve, or reboot some of the things that we need in our particular educational context. Let me begin by taking a look at what we see now as our landscape. I'm dividing it into two. The intermediate, which means the short term. We see that classes will continue to become online. Majority of our classes are not supposed to have face-to-face classes or the regular mode. And that means to say our government is actually locking us down to say and to consider some flexible learning modalities. And based on what we now know, but it can change again tomorrow, face-to-face may begin as early as the fourth quarter. But of course, it all depends on how we are able to respond to this particular situation that we are all in. This actually also means that if ever we resume, there will be smaller class sizes. Why? Safe distancing or physical distancing is actually implemented when there is now some face-to-face discussions online. Second, we are actually looking at adopting new teaching and learning strategies. I guess my other co-speakers have already shared how this actually pans out. But I think in the Philippine context, we have to explore creative and innovative way of delivering teaching and learning. You have to understand that, like Indonesia, the Philippines is actually composed of islands. And not all of us would have the same access in terms of internet connectivity. Hence, the government, the Commission on Higher Education, is actually exploring different modalities on how we can still reach out to our students and try to implement our curriculum. Part of that is the use of radio or the use of course packs or physical things that they will have to fill in, portfolios, and submit. And of course, for those universities like ours who were able to already implement the digital learning management system, that's something that we also employ. Later on, I'll share you what La Salle has in terms of this. We also need to understand that because of this, part of accounting education is the practicum or the OGT standards. Given that we are not allowed to leave our homes, then we are restricted to considering flexible work arrangement as much as possible. You have to understand that our partners also are actually experiencing the same things as we are. They're still adapting, and therefore perhaps exploring a work from home arrangement might be something that's possible. Likewise, we are tasked to review, given all of this disruption, what is now our learning outcomes, or do we need to recalibrate them and competency standards in our courses, especially accounting education. We recognize new competencies needed. IASB already provided us both with the technical, the skills, and of course the attitude that we need for us to become professionals. But I think given all of this, we need to revisit and try to see how these new competencies now will become relevant to our particular situation. New industries are also cropping up. In our context, there are now a lot of online industries, and therefore that's another thing that we need to do as accountants in order for us to understand. Likewise, we are resuming licensure examinations this coming October, having postponed the May exam, but the modality will still be pen and paper, and that is actually what we see. In the medium term, we realize that there are certain things that we need to do to recalibrate our accounting standards or accounting curriculum standards or the expected learning outcomes. We need to rethink the way learning is done or is happening in higher education. That will revisit the role of teachers, students, and the new learning environment, and perhaps learning in a digital and flexible environment. Likewise, we are now looking at reforming the CPA licensure, wherein we now align it with IASB standards that includes practical experiences before licensure examinations are actually going to be taken. Moreover, there's now talks that computerizing the examination is actually going to be seriously considered. Bottom line, relevance, thinking the role of universities in this particular century. What are our plans now? Now, I'm looking at this from the LaSalle's perspective, our university, given this landscape. Our plans is to continue using flexible and remote learning strategies. That includes, at this present point, pure online classes. LaSalle is actually uses a trimestral system, and we have not yet completed our academic year. Our third term or last term will begin this July 1, and we are exploring first all pure online classes using our LMS called Animo Space or the use of Canvas as a tool. Hybrid classes will be possible only when we are allowed to do face-to-face. Likewise, we now take a look at innovative or modular approaches to some of our learning strategies that includes self-study from home or even work from home for our practicum. Likewise, we need to make sure that we are able to manage the quality of all of this implementation. Part of that is to set up academic standards. We have endeavored to regulate the workload, which actually means that everybody knows that if you're going to enroll in an online class, 1 unit or credit is equal to 2.5 hours of workload per week. And that actually goes for both faculty and students alike. Likewise, we are implementing and currently reviewing operations continuity plans that actually include support services for continuity, support for course and development, because even if we have been doing online classes for the longest time, some of our faculty are not yet into the online mode, and therefore support for course development is there. Likewise, redundancy locations for our IT and also for some of our critical operations. What are the key success factors here? Medium term, of course, we are expecting some stable or at least reasonable enrollment number come this July for our third term. We hope that we are able to get also positive feedback from our students and faculty regarding the conduct of our online classes, and that means the performance of both teaching and learning. And hopefully, we are also looking at minimum disruptions, technology or infrastructure, or even disruptions regarding the conduct of our classes. On the long haul, we are looking at some success factors. Creating the new normal requires that we have a new educational model, that the faculty understands their role. We have new learning model for our students, that learning is not just in the classroom where we have the rote and repetition model where we parrot whatever is taught before us, but towards one that is actually about creation and not consumption model. For universities or HEIs, maybe consideration for a new business model and how we are able to operate. In closing, I'd just like to give you a challenge perhaps that we don't need to aim for perfection, but I think as a minimum, we have to aim to become anti-fragile. I'm borrowing Nassim Taleb's quote in here. What does anti-fragility mean? Anti-fragility is beyond resilience or robustness. The resilient resists shocks and stays the same. We don't want that. The anti-fragile gets better. I guess if there's one thing that COVID gave us, it's actually the appreciation that we can still improve, and we need to make sure that Industry 4.0 is alive, breathing, and vibrant, even in accounting education across the world. So thank you very much, and I hope you have a safe, healthy, and memorable time here.
Thank you, too.
Back to you, Flong.
And of course, the last but definitely not the least, we have Dr. Jesslyn from Singapore. Take it away, Dr. Jesslyn.
Thank you, Flong. Good morning, everyone. I'm Jesslyn, and I'll be sharing my experience in 3 parts. How to instill students' interest in the lecture content before they come to class, how to create an engaging and relatable learning experience for students in class, and finally, what can we do if we need to move the assessments online? And this is especially relevant given the COVID-19 situation. In terms of the ordering, I'll talk about point 1 and 3 first, then come back to point 2. Since we are looking at a new normal in accounting education, I'll be sharing one of my scenario-based videos. Hopefully, this will give you a good idea of what the students experience in class. Just a bit of background, I teach applied finance modules in SIT's accountancy program. So that's why when you look at the teaching content on this slide, it relates to finance concepts. This is actually one of the screen grabs from my pre-lecture videos. My students watch this before they come to class. And the aim is to give them an idea of what will be covered in class. So I try to keep these videos to about 1 to 2 minutes in length, just long enough for me to talk about the learning objectives and the highlights of each topic. And I find that doing so helps in setting the flavor of the topic. It gives the students, shows the students what they can look forward to in class. The next thing I want to talk about is online proctoring using a webcam. In SIT, we use the lockdown browser and the responders monitor. To put it simply, the lockdown browser prevents students from accessing external links during the test, and the responders monitor stands in as the monitoring tool throughout the test. The beauty of having a system like this is that students can take the test at the stated time from any location. This is especially handy given the COVID-19 situation. And I've been using this in my corporate finance module even before the pandemic came along. So as part of the pre-test checks, students will need to take a photo of themselves together with their student ID. They will also be required to record a short clip of their environment to show that they only have with them the items that are allowed, such as calculators and blank pieces of paper. And that's the formula sheet, by the way. I also ask that students show me that it's an unmarked copy. After the test, I will go in to look at the class results and review the recording. The system will flag the cases with issues, and it will show me a timeline of the entire recording with the different timestamps. And we can use this system for both MCQ quizzes as well as for return response exams. The last thing I want to share comes from one of my recent projects. Based on my experience with the pre-lecture videos, I find that students respond well to visual learning. So together with my fellow colleagues, we produce these scenario-based videos and use them to teach research skills at the undergraduate level. Since we are looking at a generation of students who have pretty much grown up with the internet, I see a need to be adaptive in how classes are delivered. And against this backdrop, perhaps it's time for us to move away from the more conventional mode of teaching. So the video that you're about to see is less than 3 minutes. My students will watch this video, followed by a facilitated discussion looking at the issues raised in the video. Hopefully, this will give you a sense of what the students experience in class. My students enjoyed watching the video, and I hope you do as well.
Okay, gentlemen, what can we do to make more money?
How about we consider from the...
I know. Spend more money on publicity.
Borrow more money.
How about...
Hey, boss, times are bad.
You, ABC123, always give me nonsense.
You mean it's Nanny?
Alright, team, we need a new corporate strategy for the new year. What have you got?
Do more corporate social responsibility.
Oh, let's talk about this next meeting.
Just go with the flow.
哇，做撇了，做撇了，做撇了，做撇了，哇，做撇了，哎呦哎呦，撇了撇了，哎呦哎呦哎呦，哇，赔惨了，赔惨了，哎呦，赔惨了，赔惨了，
What can we do to improve this team dynamics and firm performance?
Pay me more for board membership.
How about having fewer board meetings?
Let's conduct this meeting over drinks. Oh, hey boss, how come you always suddenly just appear behind me?
Good leg, boss.
Ouch. Who else has anything to say?
Get more females on board.
Before I end off, I think as educators, we need to actively explore innovative ways to spice up classroom teaching. So in the new normal, what we can strive for, beyond imparting our knowledge, is to create and facilitate an engaging environment which not only ignites, but also maintains students' interest in the topic. I've come to the end of my sharing. Thank you. Back to you, Flong.
Thank you, Dr. Jesslyn. Let me first check how our audience are doing right now. It's now time for us to answer our poll question number 2. In this particular question, there are 2 questions. 1, what is the color of the main slides used in this webinar? Is it blue, red, green, or orange? Number 2, who is the host organization for today's webinar? Is it ACPASI, NACPAE, or ACPAP? What is the color of the main slides used in this webinar? 69% answered orange, and you are correct. Congratulations for being attentive and very keen to details. Question number 2, who is the host organization for today's webinar? You are also correct, 94% is the National Association of CPAs in Education in partnership with AAEW, PICPA, and IAI Indonesia. Thank you very much. It's now time to proceed to our question and answer, and I will be moderating this, and I'm looking at the question and answer box right now. May I request all our speakers to kindly turn on your videos and let's have a conversation right now. So I'm looking at the screens of our dear speakers from Cambodia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, and Singapore. Foremost, I would like to say thank you and congratulations. Those inputs are really gold, relevant, interesting. It's also interesting to note that looking at the question and answer, most of our audience are really leveraging on the rigor and integrity of assessments in the new normal. May I have your inputs on that? Perhaps we could start with Dr. Ersa. What can you say about that?
Yes, it's very challenging, isn't it, to make sure that the students are honest when they are doing the exam. And it's more challenging for us during this online, especially, for example, I don't have these gadgets that as I think Jaslyn have or Cassie have. So, but isn't that the essence of accounting educations? We are expecting the student to have integrity. We are expecting the students to not cheating even if they can. And I share the same experience with Cassie that my midterm exam and final exam are significantly higher during this online than the not online classes. And I hope that is not because the students are cheating, but because they are more relaxed, they can, in the relaxed environment, because when they are having exam in the campus, they are more, stiff and a lot of rules, and they have to be there early and so on. So basically, I would stress out during the exam is online. They need to do it online, and then I was proctoring through the video. But before the exam, I keep telling them that there is no way I can 100% guarantee that each one of you will not be cheating. You will always find a way. But that is not what kind of accountants that we want you to be. We want you to be integrity. We want you to be honest, even when you are have opportunity to be not doing honest exam. That's maybe some my experience.
Thank you, Dr. Ersa. Professor Arnel, I see you nodding. So something is in there.
Yes, I think when we have the new normal upon us and we do, for example, a lot of online, that requires us to have a different mindset, first and foremost. I think we cannot use our old standards in teaching, learning, and assessment in an online forum. And some of the things that we always have at the back of our mind is actually now becoming more possible or at least more accepted. For instance, making our students own up to the learning environment. I guess the learning part is not actually the teacher ensuring that you're able to communicate well, to give you a lecture that's well done, or give you certain exercises or exams. But I guess at the end of the day, you need to make sure that the students own up to the learning experience as well. Secondly, I think lifelong learning is upon us, and lifelong learning, because of the new normal, is already a given. You need to now make sure that you learn more, adapt faster, otherwise you will be left behind. And I guess at the end of the day, the new normal requires us to have a quest, an adventure, a journey towards knowing a better version of ourselves as we now become professional accountants in the coming days.
Thank you, Professor Arnel. Dr. Zubir, as educators, how do you think we should prepare our assessments vis-a-vis the rigor and integrity of our assessments? Plus, there's what you call authentic assessment. What can you say about that, Dr. Zubir?
Right, thank you very much. It's an interesting question to ask, and I think it's very relevant with what we are experiencing during the pandemic of COVID-19. I think in terms of the assessment, we need to somehow adjust the way we ask questions, not like the normal way we require the students to have online kind of responses to questions that we pose, and then the methods that we use. I think more of the assessment, for example, if we ask the question in the normal, normal way of without COVID, normally we will be asking them to calculate this, calculate that, and then define this, define that, and then analyze, of course, and then analysis. But this time around, I think the assessment should be a reflection of what they understand about things that they learn in the classroom, online classroom and so on. I think maybe the method of assessment should also be aligned towards, the online materials. Like in the experience of USM, what we do is basically, for example, when it comes to the student project and also the online test that they have to use the e-learn to give their responses and also answers for the exam or test questions, we don't allow the copy and paste facility in that particular what you call platform. So we disable that. So in that respect, students will have to really type, and we ask questions more of their opinion, more of their understanding about things rather than giving definition of that, definition of this. And then if they need to do the calculation, normally it will be, accompanied by some analysis from, the responses that they have produced. That's my response. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Zubir. Now that we have discussed assessment, of course, right after our students graduate, there is what you call professional qualification, or what you call the examination. Now, speaking about how we prepare them now under the new normal, as we call it, how aligned would our assessments be with respect to what is being assessed during licensure examinations, during professional exam qualifications? And I would like to ask Dr. Jesslyn about this. What are your thoughts about that?
I think in the new normal, especially, and given that in terms of the learning, as educators, we are kind of motivated to be interactive and innovative in our approach. It definitely spills over to the kind of preparation that we can provide to the students for their professional qualification. So therefore, in the preparation of our assessments, or even in the materials, it would actually be useful if students can look at real life business case scenarios. So actually, that's one of the reasons why we decided to go on with scenario-based videos, because we thought we could actually introduce this way ahead into what they're learning currently. Yes.
Are we saying that somehow the academe, since we are the ones preparing our students, should somehow influence how these regulators might ask questions or assess? Is that something that you would want to consider? What can you say about that, Casey?
Well, I'd say that what the regulators want to do really is the same thing that we want to do, which is to assess the student's ability to perform in the workplace, to perform in the real world. So we're assessing their skills. And one thing I'd like to say is that when we think about what our students are going to be doing, they're not going to be writing anything on paper, right? So in terms of authentic assessment, we should assess them in a way that they're going to be actually working. They're going to be working with spreadsheets. They're going to be working with software. They're going to be working on the computer. And so our examinations should also be on the computer. They should also be using software. We shouldn't be using paper and pencil anyway for assessments. At our institute here in Cambodia, we did away with paper a long time ago. And when we had our physical classes, the physical class exams were with students in their laptop. So now it's also students using a laptop, but using it at home. So I think regulators, and we see that the ACCA, the global accountancy body, they've also pushed into online examinations, computer-based examinations that are using video case studies, such as Dr. Jesslyn has shown, as well as being able to integrate data from spreadsheets.
You mentioned about real-world skills, and I got it earlier that there are soft skills or other non-technical skills that you have to develop. You think it's challenging to hone them now that we are in the new normal, where the interface is using technology? What can you say about that? Okay, I'll start again with you, Casey.
Sure. Well, I can start by saying, well, the new normal is not just the new normal for us educators, but the new normal is also for students at work. When students are now working, they're going to be interacting through Google Meet, through Microsoft Teams. So students need to develop these soft skills also for these online platforms. So when we are teaching online, it's also the same kind of skills that the students are going to need to develop when they're out working.
Are we trying to say that some social skills may also be developed using online learning?
Absolutely, especially the online social skills.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I would want to pursue right now the non-verbal reaction of Dr. Ursa. You want to say something, right?
Yeah, I understand that maybe the online social skills are improving. I can see that the shy students who are usually are very shy asking questions in the classroom. They are asking more questions during online classes. So maybe because they are in the more relaxed environments, they are continuing. They are they are joining the classroom inside their bedroom, for example. But I have a very big concern is lack of collaborations, not in the term of academic collaborations, because yes, we can give them group projects, they can have group project academically, but there are so many student activities that are fun activities, like organizing a concert, organizing a ball, like a graduation ball, or other fun things that they organize, that I believe they are learning a lot. It's sharpening their soft skills when they are organizing with their friends an event. It teaches them how to negotiate with the sponsors, for example, conflict resolutions when the committee doesn't work well, and that's shaping their soft skills. That's cannot replace by online. I'm sorry.
Okay, so interesting perspective coming from Dr. Ursa. I would like to know the thoughts of Professor Arnel with regard to this.
Yes, I do agree with them that the new normal presents to us a lot of challenges and yet a lot of opportunities. In fact, the mere fact right now that we are meeting and there are around 870 of us being connected without the necessity of traveling and the constraints of budgets is actually a new reality that connects us more. If you take a look at connection, I think we are more connected now. However, we need to recalibrate the way we define connections. I guess if there's one thing that I would like to add to our discussion is that concept that, yes, the skills can be honed, it can actually be taught, it can be improved, the way we are able to reach out. But I think that's one thing that we need to understand is how to make sure that we understand how to become human. I think we don't need to miss that out. Otherwise, we will all be robots and we can all be programmed. Humanity is more than that. I think as accountants, that's where our innovation, our creativity, and the skills for us to have critical thinking is actually very essential. And that's the reason why I think the soft skill is one thing, but also the other subject about social sciences that enhances all of our understanding of how humans behave is actually also equally important now. Especially the new normal requires us to redefine them. Not the way that we grew up with, but perhaps as the new generation are now experiencing it, and as the new generation will now cope with it and live with it even after we're gone.
I like your idea of recognizing to remain being human. And as human beings, we are social beings. So with respect to social beings, engagement is something that we would want to consider also in the new normal. With the two types of modalities at hand, it could be synchronous or asynchronous for that matter, how can we ensure engagement? So I think Dr. Jesslyn, would you want to say something about that? How can we ensure engagement?
Sure, Fong. I think probably one of the best ways is to be able to see the other party in the screen, to have that sort of visual connection when you're actually chatting. And at least, even if we're unable to meet physically and face to face, we still get that sense of connection. I think even in terms of us educators, when we teach the students, even if we have some of them who may be quite shy and is not willing to turn on their videos, if we actually allow them to ask questions through chat box, or just say that if they want to, they can just unmute their microphones and ask a question, essentially make it feel that we are closer to them. Yes.
All right, so exactly that's for the synchronous, right? Okay, I want us to reflect on how can we ensure engagement in our asynchronous activities. Dr. Zubir, can you tell us more about your thoughts on that?
Right, I think both should blend well, and we need both of synchronous and also asynchronous. But in terms of looking at the background of our students, some are quite unfortunate in the sense that they're not connected all the time to the online and also to the internet, basically. So they might find it quite difficult to participate in every online activities, especially when you do it, live. For example, in our case, whenever we have this online meeting through WebEx or through Teams, then those who are in Kelantan, quite remote in the east coast of Malaysia, they will find it quite difficult to be connected. And then there is no way that we can engage with them using the synchronous kind of method. So what we do is basically to also record and also to have an alternative. How can we be connected with them, and then how can they engage with us in terms of making the education a continuous journey for them and for everybody, in fact. So we also have in mind of this sort of group of students, and we have the asynchronous kind of methods of delivery as well. So in fact, for final exam that we replace with the coursework, those with online tests, those who are really poor in terms of being connected to the internet, we are thinking of sending some package of the exam questions for them so that they can attempt, so that they're not going to be marginalized in terms of getting access to the internet. So I believe that both synchronous and also asynchronous are very important in celebrating the differences between capabilities of the students and also their background. Thank you.
Thank you too. Correct me if I'm wrong. You mentioned something about bringing the materials physically to our learners.
Yeah.
Yeah, that simply means there is an issue on connectivity there.
Yeah,
right?
We do have the issue of connectivity, of course, yeah.
Which is very common among Southeast Asian countries, and not only in Southeast Asia, but also with the rest of the world. Now that you have touched on connectivity concerns, my question is, what should be the response of higher education institutions with respect to infrastructure investment, with respect to knowing if learners have connectivity at homes? Because right now, their homes are converted into a classroom. And we recognize the fact that in their homes, there can be more than one learner. So they have to compete for connectivity. One corner, your brother, another corner, your sister, another corner, your mother, your father. And that is the situation right now. We have all turned working or studying from home as if there's only one person staying at home. What can you say about that? I would like to pursue what Casey is thinking right now.
Okay.
Sure. Well, first I'd like to add something about the synchronous versus asynchronous. We really had a hard time getting students to be involved in the asynchronous. And when we look at the number of video views and document views for the asynchronous videos and activities, it was really low. It was a struggle. So for us, what we've done is we've biased towards the synchronous, and we take attendance in the online classes, and we have the scheduled online classes because some students, they just don't have the discipline to do the asynchronous activities. So we really spend more on the synchronous. In terms of the infrastructure investment, we've had it a bit easy because our examinations were already online for several years now, but they were online in our classroom. So students, to do the online exams, they needed to have laptops and all the equipment. So we didn't have to make such an investment into infrastructure. One thing that we've done to kind of smooth the transition to doing exams at home is we have regular mock examinations. So all these small problems with connecting and setting up the cameras can be worked out during the mock examinations.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, Casey. Professor Arnel, what are your thoughts on that with respect to connectivity vis-a-vis our learners and also our faculty members?
Yes. Normally, that's where we can actually take a look at it from two perspectives. One, what we can control, and the other one is actually something that we need to consider as what we have right now existing. For example, our bandwidth in the country will be different. I mean, we're not like Singapore or South Korea, where 5G is actually everywhere, right? So the infrastructure there is something that we need to consider. Having said that, let's not always make it as an excuse that, you have poor connectivity, you have poor Wi-Fi, you have poor connections, you share it with everybody. I think if there is a will, there's always a way. I think that's a basic human tendency. And we need to find that and make it apparent so that we can share more or less how that will and that way actually becomes a reality to each one of us. Like for instance, in our case here, one of the things that we need to understand is to manage expectation in terms of asynchronous and synchronous type of learning and to manage the entire learning environment. I did share that in De La Salle, one of the things that we have done in terms of quality control, and I saw some questions about that there, is for us to have a clear method of or a clear standard on what the workload is required of you. I guess if that's clear from the faculty side, doing the teaching and learning and making sure that their learning outcomes are achieved, and on the other side, the students, as far as how much time they need to work on their particular subject, I guess that's something that should actually match. And I think that's constructively aligned in terms of how you also assess. And we did that by saying, if you enroll in one unit or one credit, you are required or expected to have to spend 2.5 hours per week. So if it's 3 units or 3 credits, you just multiply it by 3. That's just the expectation. Now, that's a standard. That's something that you expect. What is now your will to be able to learn? And what way do you now use so that that is now achieved?
Thank you, Professor Arnel. I would like to pursue the idea on the faculty load, also vis-a-vis the student load. Dr. Ursa, what do you think is that more or less appropriate mix with respect to the load of our faculty members and the load of our students right now that we are in the new normal? And even beyond this new normal, I think something that we want to carry on with us as accounting teachers. Dr. Ursa.
I'm so worried for my eyes, to be honest, because we are starting online lockdown 16th of March, yeah, in Universitas Pajajaran, and the rector has made a decision that the online will be extended until January. And honestly, during this work from home, I can be in front of monitor from 7:30 a.m. until at night. So my eyes, I think I need to check my glasses as well. For me, it's very hard to review online all the student assignments and read all the thesis, dissertations online and give comments. Honestly, the workload, I feel the workload is now more, because then the time and the days are somehow fake at the moment. Like sometimes we have meetings on Sundays and Saturdays as well. And then if it is not online, we can only have like 3 meetings in a day. We can tell them, oh, I cannot join that meeting because I'm still in another campus. It took me these minutes to go to that campus, so I cannot join the meeting. But now we cannot say that. So all the meetings in one day are very, very close to each other, and they expect us to join more meetings now. So for me, I'm grateful for this work from home, because then I can cook and be with my family. But mentally and all the tasks is online, is for me is very hard. I wish we can have normal situations and maybe not so much work from home, although I love work from home as well. Thank you.
I really feel the same thing, no, Dr. Ursa. So I think one of you mentioned earlier that consultation time has really evolved these days. It can go beyond the normal 8-hour class or consultation physically in our respective universities. Now that you talked about the faculty load, let's talk about your students' load. We feel the load. How do you think students should handle the load? Or from our perspective as teachers, Do we need to change the way we provide requirements? Do we need to change the number of units that they have to enroll in a particular term or semester? What can you say about that, Dr. Jesslyn?
I think in terms of the required load, even though we've moved on to look at online teaching and online learning, still pretty much the same for students. I think the difference is it encourages us as educators to be more adaptive in terms of how we deliver the classes. So that means, not trying to overrun our lecture or our tutor or seminar, just to make sure that the students have some, can get a breather before they move on to the next class if they have back-to-back classes. In terms of the consultation hours, yes, we do see students, they may email us and ask for consultation hours maybe in a much later time. And as and when possible, I think I can speak for all my colleagues as well, we are happy to accommodate them, because we do see the effort that they are trying to make to get used to online learning. And it's a new challenge for them, and it's also certainly a new challenge for us. Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned about delivery. No? As faculty members, there are accounting courses that are very technical, that are very theoretical, that are very practice-oriented. For sure, the preparation with respect to those courses would have to be different. Dr. Ursa, you're teaching financial accounting, I suppose, all right? How would you recommend financial accounting be delivered in terms of teaching? Would you have a pre-recorded video? Would you prepare a PowerPoint, share screen? Among those, what do you think is best for that?
Right. I teach intermediate financial accounting and advanced accounting. For me, it's a very challenging to teach, especially advanced accounting online, because in the classroom, I can give them questions, and then I can go to each student and ask, how are you? Are you doing okay? And then I can give them a direct feedback of what they are doing. Now it's all online. I usually give them videos before the classrooms. I give them to watch videos, and I share the same sentiment with Casey, that the asynchronous videos is quite low. That's why for my class is still on schedule. I teach 2.5 hours online in Google Meet, and I use Google Meet, not use Zoom. And give them a lot of cases. So before, for example, for today, if I teach inventories, for example, in the first 15 minutes, I ask them to open a financial report of a company and then check their inventories, what are their accounting policies, what are the inventories that they have, and they share in the chat room what the accounting policies of the companies. And then we go into the topics, explain a little bit, and give them exercise. And then I give them a lot of points because millennials, they love to do the games and points. So I give them questions, and those who can answer right away, give them points, 20 points, 30 points, 50 points, and they have their scorecard. They have their scorecards, and each day they will report the points to the head of the classroom. So the head of the classroom have Excel sheet that every day they put the points. So it's like a games of for students, and especially for the young students, like semester 1, first semester, second semester, and for more advanced students, because they are built already. I think they have more understanding. So for them, the points is important, but not very excited as the first and the second semester students. And then they also get points when they ask questions. So they don't get points. When they ask smart questions, they get more points. And then when they answer their friends' questions, they get points. So this is some things that I encourage in my classroom, because many accounting students in Indonesia are very shy in asking questions. They are so afraid of their friends see them as stupid questions, and they are afraid that their friend will see them as trying to get lecturers' attention. So the peer review of their colleagues, peer pressure is very high. That's why I keep encouraging them to ask questions. And online, surprisingly, they ask more questions than the offline classes, which is I like it. I like it, and they can send questions privately in the chat room. They can ask questions also openly in the chat room. So it's good. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Ursa. Anyone who can speak for theoretical courses? So something that has to do with theory and all, like Dr. Jesline, Professor Arnell, what should be our approach in terms of teaching theoretical courses? Professor Arnell, please.
Yes. It's always a challenge if you want to do theoretical by lectures. I guess that's something that is a given. But the new reality shows us that there are other possible ways to do so. One word perhaps is that how do you make it exciting for our students? Because when you take a look at theories, for example, it's so boring when you take a look at standard this, standard number two, etc. But if you put that in the context of an engaging case or scenario, and that's the reason why they need to understand that the theory is applied this way, then that becomes more exciting. I guess I'm picking up from what Jesline showed us earlier. Scenario-based cases, etc., helps us now engage them more, especially if the scenario or the case is something that they can identify with. And I guess I'd like to borrow, I think, one of the things that Casey or Zubir also shared with us, that you need to know your students where they are at this point so that you will be able to connect with them. I guess that's actually a given too, right? So one, make sure that it's engaging. Second, allow them to actually connect to the material at their level. Again, as facilitators, we're not here to pass on the learning to them, ram it down their throat. We're here to make sure that they're able to connect the dots themselves, so that at least that becomes now more rewarding for them.
Thank you, Professor Arnell. Now that we're done with technical courses, theoretical courses, let's take a look at the practical courses. I'm thinking in the line of internship. So how would you think internship be best done, implemented in the new normal? Dr. Zubir, what are your thoughts on internship in the new normal?
Right, internship in the new normal, we have our students, massive number of students this semester undergoing the internship at the moment. And we have been engaging with numerous employers, and they are very happy with the quality of the students that we have in terms of the placement of the students, and they can do the work. But because of the pandemic, it came, towards the end of March and also April, so some students, they are required to work from home. And I think this is a new normal that, will apply anywhere. So we don't have much problem, except that some small, medium enterprises, they tend to have this financial distress, financial difficulty, and then some close down. So our students will have to be relocated to other employers. And because of, the duration, and we are required by the professional bodies to meet minimum requirement in terms of 70% to 100% of the total amount of time spent at the internship companies. So we have already designed some alternative assessments in terms of making sure that the accreditation by the professional bodies are not going to be jeopardized, and we will still meet the requirement. So what we do is basically we have the alternative assessment in terms of writing the cases from the organization where they have the internship attachment. So they need to write about what they do, and then what are the issues and how much that they can relate with the current development in accounting. And especially those who are working in the audit firm, we have asked them to write something about the AI, artificial intelligence, how they deal with the artificial intelligence in auditing. And then if they're working in the manufacturing companies, then we will be asking them to write about the RPA, robotic process automation, and so on and so forth. So this will be based on where they have their internship placement at. So I think this is something, we find it quite interesting at the new normal, that they tend to learn and they have the opportunity to learn a lot of new things. And So do us. So we also learn lots of new things, and I am happy and excited to learn more from now on.
Thank you. Before I would like to ask you for your final word, I would like Jesslyn or Casey to answer this last question. I would want to more or less discuss something about the use of learning management systems in the new normal. Because quite a lot of our audience, a number of them are really asking about learning management systems. Do you think is it a must, or is it really something that we need and something that more or less should be there as part of the new normal in higher education institution landscape? What are your thoughts on that, Casey and Dr. Jesslyn?
Well, I can start by saying that there are some excellent management systems that are free of charge. For example, Google Apps for Education. Many of the features are available to your universities throughout ASEAN free of charge. And Google Apps for Education is very powerful. And so it's a way to immediately get going with your online courses. And Google Apps for Education might actually be better and more sustainable than many of the bespoke applications. You might spend years paying programmers, coders to develop an application that still might fall short of Google Apps for Education. For us here at CAMED Business School, we have two systems. We have our own internal academic management system that we developed internally with our team of coders, but we are using, in parallel, we use Google Apps for Education.
Thank you, Casey. How about you, Dr. Jesslyn?
In SIT, yeah, we use the lockdown browser and the responders monitor. It definitely took a while for the students to get used to actually doing online assessments. But I think with enough time, enough runway for trials, for mock quizzes, after a while, the students are pretty okay, with doing online quizzes, and it actually saves on not just time, traveling time, or even resources, because everything is so seamlessly integrated. When the students do the tests, they do it with no one around. And they are not fussed by the webcam that's actually staring at them, or when the audio recording is taking place. So then for educators, all we need to do after the test is then go in to review the recording and for those cases with issues. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I hate to say this, but we are now in our final word. I wish this would have been longer, but in the interest of time, may we have now your final word as our distinguished panelist. I would like to start with Dr. Ersa. Final word.
Thank you, Flong. Sorry. In the question and answers, I read a lot of concern about trust. How can we know that our students are honest? How can we know that our students, when they are submitting late, that it is because of the online connection problem and not because they just want to be late? Well, I always have a positive attitude. I always tell my students that I believe that you are all honest because I'm honest with you, and I appreciate honesty, integrity, and I believe when you lie to me, God will punish you more than my punishment. And honestly, they are all afraid by God punishment, I think. So I believe that I believe it to my students. I have confidence to my students that they will be honest with me, and that's it. And I make my peace based on that. So whenever the students are having midterm exam and they cannot submit, I know that there is a real problem, not they made it up. That's number one. And number two, a lot of mental health issues. Yes, the students are all very stressed out based on this. We don't know their situations. We don't know even if they have encouraging environment to learn at home. So we have to be more empathy with the students, compassionate with the students. And that's basically what I do. If they are, one of the students, for example, have a very low midterm exam, and I asked, what's happened with you? And she said that I was actually sick. And then her mother said, confirmed that she was actually having flu and so on. So I allow her to have more assignments so they have so she can have a better mark for the midterm exam. So a lot of compassion because of these situations. That's my final remark. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ersa. Final word, Professor Casey.
I'd like to say that success teaching online for a university is it's all about the professors. If the professors buy in, if the professors are fluent in using applications to engage students online, then they're going to be able to draw in the students. They're going to be able to guide the students. And so to be successful, you need to really spend as much time as you can training your professors, getting your professors to develop their skills in using these various online applications, and especially to engage. Like Dr. Ursa was saying, that she has a lot of success with the gamification of her courses, giving scores, giving points. So a lot of great applications. You can live and die with Kahoot. That'll save your lives. And so please, if you haven't used Kahoot, use it. And there are a lot of applications to engage students also through the Google Classroom.
Thank you. Dr. Jesslyn, your final word?
I think in terms of designing assessments for the new normal, or designing the materials that we want our students to see in the new normal, think about what appeals to them, what relates to the students, and just explore. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Jesslyn. Dr. Zubir.
I believe that this is a new beginning of the lifelong learning, and we need to be appreciative of the new normal that we are experiencing at the moment by acknowledging some of the predicaments, faced by not only the students but also the lecturers. I think the accounting educators also, some of them are quite busy at home, especially when they have household audience to interact with them in terms of making notes and then deliver, the lecture and so on. So I believe that young parents, especially with small kids, babies, they might find it quite stressful when dealing with the students who are asking questions nonstop, and also at the same time, the crying babies and so on. But I believe that we all here, willing to learn, and we hope to learn good things in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Zubir. Of course, the last but definitely not the least, Professor Arnel.
Yes, I just like to end with a challenge to everyone here in this particular webinar. I think we have heard a lot about the new normal, what COVID has given to us, but perhaps a challenge that allows us to understand that COVID is a greatest gift that we have for humanity today, because it allowed us to pause. It allowed us to rethink what is essential, what is important, and what is our priority. And I'd like to end with just this challenge. Embracing the new for all of us requires that we unlearn the old. I think it's not just embracing something new, that what we have heard here. Let's not forget, please unlearn the old. Let's not bring the old to the new, because that's not going to work for most parts, right? That's the reason why the challenge is for us to be able to do the unlearning, relearning, and again, applying it to real learning at this point. And that is, I guess, the pathway. But I guess the direction for us is this. We just don't stay as going back to the new or the old normal or the old standards. We become resilient. We go back, restore. I think I ended with my presentation with the word. And I guess that's the challenge that I like. To become anti-fragile. Better versions of ourselves. And that's a challenge I would like to embrace, and I hope everybody else will embrace. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Arnel, and thank you, dear panelists. We really learned a lot from you. This was a very productive, meaningful, and insightful discussion and webinar with you, and of course, with our audience. And speaking of doing something new in the new normal, we will be awarding our certificate of appreciation the new normal way. And at this point, we are going to present to you our certificate of appreciation. And it reads, AAEW Certificate of Appreciation. This is presented to our panelists for serving as resource speaker in the webinar entitled The New Normal in Accounting Education in the ASEAN Region. live via Zoom on June 18, 2020. Signed, Dr. Nani Dewey Tanzil, AAEW President. We would like to award this now to Casey. Casey, this is for you.
Thank you very much.
And of course, the next one is for Dr. Ersa. This one is for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And the next one, Zubir. Dr. Zubir, thank you too.
Thank you to receive. Thanks.
Thank you.
And of course, we have Professor Arnel Uy. Thank you very much, Dr. Uy. And the last but definitely not the least, Dr. Jesslyn Lim. Thank you very much for the invoice.
Thank you.
Okay. After we have awarded the certificate of appreciation, how we wish that this could have been longer. But our learnings today would just be in the books for now. Let's move on and bring all the lessons we learned from today's webinar. And for that reason, let me call Professor Dr. Rosainon to give the closing remarks. Professor Rosainon, have it your way now. Thank you.
Okay, hi. Thank you, Flong. This new normal post-COVID pandemic have brought people across ASEAN with new ideas, big changes, and adapting to new situations now. And we all suddenly just have to dive and jump into this pool of open distance learning and communication and remote meeting. So the webinar today, a very good sharing that we had by all our inspiring speakers on their venture and plans, and some learning keywords that I pick up and perhaps we can take home from Cambodia. So Casey highlighted on interactive applications use learning activities to continue, but on different platform, no evidence for any learning impairment. In fact, students improved with the tools needed. From Indonesia, Elsa pointed out onto changing landscape, the need for soft skills, looking good on the screen. From Malaysia, Zubir emphasized on addressing online-oriented mechanisms of teaching and learning, addressing the unboring students, to unboring the students, and then going for plans for greater flexibility, and of course with fruitful outcomes. From the Philippines, Arnel presented moving forward and next generation ideas, new modalities in disruption to stay alive and vibrant in and despite the COVID. From Singapore, Jocelyn addressed the question on how to bring interest in students, the lockdown browser and responders monitor to spice up, she proposes, for the new normal teaching, engaging and more involved environment. So the social distancing that brought us, in fact, closer to the world of digitalization is now evident with this webinar. So in any case, in whatever circumstances, let's stay positive. And I'm sure everybody agrees that this webinar is very encouraging. So on behalf of AAEW, thank you, thank you, thank you for your support. Sitting in front of my PC this morning from Malaysia, from my home. I am so excited to fill this webinar as we have attracted so many interests by the chats and registered participation that we can see from different organizations and the ASEAN countries. We look forward to organizing more of these webinars in the future. And we at AAEW, we want to drive more joint work together as indicated by our President, Dr. Nani. So please do contact us. See you. I hope I can say this correctly. Ting nan mo, kiun anak cap, jumpa lagi. Thank you. Back to you, Flo.
Very well said. Thank you, Professor Rosainon.
Yeah.
All right, before we really end this webinar, there's one more poll question that we would want you to answer. It will be flashed right now in your screen. But right after this, please do not forget that there will be an evaluation link that will be pasted in the chat box. So in that particular evaluation link, you have to answer. So it's more of a survey because that will be a requirement before we at AAEW can issue or email or send you your certificate for attending in today's webinar. Okay, perhaps we can now flash the results of our evaluation? Okay. So with respect to the evaluation, so we've got 74% saying it's excellent, 69% saying it's excellent, and those evaluations are really encouraging. Thank you very much. As we end this webinar, allow us to thank our partners and sponsors in this inaugural version of our webinar. PICPA, Philippine Institute of Certified Public Accountants, NACPAE, National Association of CPAs in Education, IAI Indonesia. Thank you. Thank you to our speakers, thank you to our attendees and the organizing committee. From your AAEW online family, this has been Florence Tugas, your moderator, saying, stay safe and healthy, everyone, until our next webinar, and God bless you all. Salamat po, terima kasih, thank you. Goodbye.